I'm gonna talk about The Kitchen God's Wife by Amy Tan. First, I want to talk about the characteristics, basically characterizations. First, Winnie, she is the protagonist in this novel. Basically, the novel is narrated around her. Everything happened related to Winnie. She is like the central character, and she also, I think she is hopeful and optimistic because she undergoes a lot of challenges through her entire life, and she also is obedient because she agrees with her aunt to marry Wenfu, which resulted in all kinds of sufferings, which Wenfu abuses her and gives her unhappy marriage. Also, I think she is patient because she endures pains for a long time without thinking of another option. She is also like a creator of the new deity, which she gives her daughter, offering the symbolic meaning of the past and the right life connections. And the next one, she is also one of the main characters is Pierre. And she is Winnie's daughter, born in America with American Chinese father. Name is Jimmy. She is different compared to other people because she married to a white guy, which has different cultural backgrounds and different habits. So she feels alienated with her family because of her husband's race. Because her husband is the only white person in her family, which makes her feel odd and strange. Also, she lacks cultural orientation with Chinese norms and customs. She cannot accept her origin until the end of the novel. She accepts her deity from her aunt as well, which made a significant change in her life, bringing a connection with the past. And before she was conservative because she never tells her mother or anyone all of the challenges she is undergoing. She never share her personal thoughts. But later on, she seems to accept all her family issues by attending her aunt's funeral after the wedding, which shows she intends to connect with her family a little bit more. Next character is Helen. She is Winnie's best friend. She always helps Winnie throughout the novel. She also gives plan for Winnie's escape from Wenfu. also she helps to take care of Winnie's son. But later on, the son still dies. And Helen also collaborates with Winnie's aunt to have her out of prison when she was accused of the death of her own son. And also she tries so hard to bring back the family bond between Winnie and her daughter and all other family members. Although she seems stubborn, but she is always like active with her life and willing to take risks. She has a better life compared to Winnie because she has a very humble background and got married to a pilot. But she also learns a lot from Winnie and later on becomes helpful in giving hope to other families. Although she is jealous when she dislikes some of Winnie's servants because Winnie is knowledge. Winnie has a good knowledge because she born from a wealth family. But Wen-Fu is not knowledge because her family is rich because his family was rich because his parents did some dirty business, which I will talk about it later on when I get to the character Wen-Fu. So Helen, in general, Helen is a helpful person to Winnie, but in some of the cases, she is not that helpful to her, I think. Next one, I want to talk about Jimmy. Jimmy is Winnie's second husband. Second husband who is an American Chinese. He is from a military, but he has good behaviors compared to Wen-Fu. He is a nice guy and he is so kind and helpful when he helps Winnie to run away, even though it was wrong. And he later becomes one of the ministers in the United States. So basically, his life is all clean and humble, not like Wen-Fu. So later on, Winnie has a good life with him before Winnie has a terrible life with Wen-Fu. Other characters, I'm not gonna write down all their names because they are not that necessary. Only these main characters you should know about. Cleo. So Cleo is Pierce's daughter. Philly is Pierce's husband. Tessa is Pierce and Philly's daughter too. Then Mary is Helen's daughter, and Du Chen is Helen's aunt. I'm gonna write down Helen's aunt. And Dan Ru is Winnie's only son, and the Wen-Fu is Winnie's terrible husband in China. And again is the pilot, which is Helen's husband. Again. 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 Okay. Peanut and Jiang is Winnie's cousin. Lang Jiangguo is Helen's first husband, and Henry Wang is Helen's second husband, and Roger Wang is Helen and Henry's son. The characters are really like the names are really confusing when I read it, and it actually reflects Chinese culture a lot because back in that time, people they all have like so many husbands and wives, and they got divorced a lot. But even right now, I feel like in China, people get divorced so often compared to America. There's just like and although it's like a stereotype, but I do feel that way. And so many kids they raise by a single father or single mother. So this book really reflects the Chinese culture and those Chinese immigrants moved to America, their life. Next, I'm gonna talk about summaries basically. So it's the narrative part. So I want to start with Pierre actually. So I talked before. She is one of the daughters of Winnie. She had been convinced in the beginning. She had been convinced by her mother Winnie to attend her cousin's engagement party in San Francisco. So I'm gonna write down Pierre attending cousin's engagement party. Okay. So she accepted the invitation and sat in the city for another extra day to catch up with the funeral of her aunt. Although these concepts I talked about before in characterizations too. So, like she gradually accepts her family background and all those Chinese cultures. And Winnie and Helen, who was one of the best friends to Winnie, so reveals to Pierre that she had brain tumors, and thus asks Pierre to tell her mom that she had brain tumors. Otherwise, she could do it herself. Like also, she tells Pierre that her mother had a lot of life secrets which she ought to have shared with her. Pierre was surprised that they shared little with her mother except for the death of her father, Jimmy. Pierre finds a chance to cry for his father at her aunt's funeral, and the aunt had a well in which she left Pierre an altar of the kitchen god. This case was one of the minor deity's mother with abusive child to her wife. Thus, the god would report to the of Jade about the good and bad people. So here, Helen tries so hard to let Pierre and Winnie be reunited because they're still like mother and daughter. They should like talk about their own secrets and their personal thoughts more. And Helen found a chance to share her illness to Winnie, and this fact made the two bring all their secrets to the light. So Helen here, like right here, Helen is the main character, which like creates a lot of transitions So Winnie calls her daughter into the kitchen, and she begins to tell all her secrets. The story of Winnie starts with the descriptions of her mother and the events that unfold in her past life. Before Winnie found herself in the United States, she had passed through difficult experiences with a lot of suffering. She had been abandoned by her foster mother, who had disappeared mysteriously. Throughout the story from these chapters 224, Winnie is narrating her past events, so this book combines both like present and past events, which sometimes confuse me, but as I read it, it gets better. So later, she was forced to stay with one of her uncles together with his two aunties. In this homestead, she felt unloved, unlike her cousin Pina, with whom they grew and played together. One of Winnie's aunts organized a traditional wedding to have her married. Her father offered a lot of dowries, given that she had a good education standing and the man was well established. And then Winnie, so here's that Winnie's life story. So Winnie got married to Wenfu, who had initially loved Peanut, but Wenfu, he changed his intention immediately when he learned that Winnie's father was a wealthy man. So basically, Wenfu switched his love so quick to Winnie only because Winnie's father is rich. The marriage was a mess because Winnie suffered a lot of mental and also physical abuse. Physical abuse from her husband, Wenfu. She narrated to her daughter all those secrets that Pierre did not know before. That she told her that how she lost a lot of children due to the beatings and the sufferings from Wenfu. According to her past life, Winnie did much of her actions secretly, with a lot of credit for her husband. The situation is like Chinese. It's one of the sentence in the book. The situation is is linked to Chinese fable of the horrible man to his wife despite what she did to him. Wenfu joined the military to defend the country against the Japanese invasion, so Winnie tried to tolerate all the challenges and pretending that all is well, even when her husband could not appreciate. At that time, only the friendship with Helen really helps Winnie to go through all these sufferings. And now I want to talk about, since Winnie is like the main character, and the book spends a lot of time talk about her basically like her terrible life. It's like a tragedy. So Winnie's suffering. Her suffering intensifies despite Winnie's efforts to maintain her marriage. She suffered a lot of injuries and sexual harassment, and even got heartbroken as her expected pregnancy frustrated her. Also, she suffered an injury as a result of Fu's fault in an auto accident. In one of the military parties, she meets Jimmy, a Chinese American. So they fall in love as they interact at the party, and they start planning all the escape from Wenfu. So when the second daughter fell sick, Wenfu could not allow the doctor to attend to her, and therefore the second daughter dies because of Wenfu. And then Winnie commits a lot of abortions, swearing not to carry any pregnancy for Wenfu, which is terrible. But also, like in China, they don't really care about all those abortion laws, which reflects the Chinese culture a little bit. Because I have noticed that in American, abortions is like a serious problem. And then she also made several attempts to get a divorce, but her husband Wenfu treated her with contempt and tearing the papers and even raping her. So which she was not able to even like say divorce directly to Wenfu. Otherwise, she will got beaten. So Winnie and Wenfu parted ways after the war with the other family, Helen. So she looked forward to going back to the father, so as she can tell her father all like what Wenfu did and all the hard life she underwent. On her return, however, she finds her father unable to speak due to stroke. So Fu and his family began selling the wealth of Winnie's father, who sat powerlessly without any help, and Winnie became unable to settle her life and decides to look for Pina, who had also run away from her horrible marriage. She meets Jimmy as she is on her way to seek Peanut. They sit together and talk about the possible escapes from Wenfu. So here I'm writing down escape from Wenfu. So Winnie also sends her son to. So this is where Winnie sends her son to stay with Helen. To stay with Helen as a way of fleeing Fu. However, the child dies due to a plague in their land, and Jimmy suggests that Winnie should go and stay with him, but actually the plan failed. When Fu accidentally gets the information that Winnie is trying to like stay with and seeing another man, and so Jimmy is sent to another country. And however, Winnie later on gets arrested as Jimmy promises to come for her after 2 years. She was accused of abandoning her husband and contributing towards the death of her own son. The only option available to her is staying in prison or getting back to her husband. So this is a hard choice, but also it's not, because either way, Winnie will not have a good life. So these two choices are not that satisfied to Winnie. So she rather choose prison over like going back to her husband. But later, Helen and her aunt helped to rescue her. But it's so ironic because her aunt and Helen, they were the one kind of suggest we need to marry Wenfu, but now they rescue her. So she contacted Jimmy her asking to like come to the United States. Later, she plans a trick to fool Wenfu and her co-wife to sign a divorce paper with the plan of fleeing the country. Wenfu finds the paper, which he steals, and hides her travel tickets. But here Helen again helps Winnie to recover the cards as they overpower Wenfu. So Winnie managed to arrive in the United States before the dominance of communists, which prevented the immigration of people from China. So in less than 9 months later, Winnie gives birth to Pierre, implying that Jimmy was not her father. But later on, Jimmy dies, which Pierre was so sad because her father died. So Pierre responds to this dramatic story by telling her mom, Winnie, about her conditions. So the mother promises to help her daughter in fighting the disease. Later, Helen came to reveal that she had no brain tumor. She had only coined the story to make Winnie and Pierre share their story and the secrets. And Helen is helpful in this way, I think, but she should not make up the story. But the story she made up did help the daughter and Winnie talk more and come like they just share their stories more. So after this incident, Winnie buys a woman deity that she puts in the kitchen god's altar, and the god is named Sorrow-Free. Winnie prays to this god constantly for the death of her daughter. The naming of the deity is derived from the wife of the kitchen who had endured all suffering with no credit for the work done. Finally, Helen brings good news that she had planned a trip for Winnie and Pierre to China. I want to talk about the motifs. So, cleaning is one of the most important motifs that Winnie is like one of the characters who try to clean away her life. The cleaning is so symbolic, with both good and bad lucks. She washes her past and the other aspects that are meant to shape her life with a new beginning. Thus, she and other characters like Helen wipes away some of the bonds that united them to oppression and miserable past lives. So basically, they in Chinese culture, and they were every year during New Year time, they will take a shower and clean the house. It means to wash away the bad lucks, and also not only for some people not only New Year time, but also every time when they encounter some bad or miserable things happened in their life, they will take a shower and clean the whole house in order to wipe away the bad luck. I want to talk about the foil between Wenfu and Jimmy. These two characters creates foil because they are totally different although their life is surrounded with Winnie, we can see that Jimmy is a nice guy. Although he died, he died later on. Wen Fu is a symbol of a bad husband. And I want to talk about the theme of bicultural experience or life. This book, in general, this book is talk about Chinese immigrants living America. So there are a lot of challenges and experiences. Talks about how immigrants went through, as well as the gaps that existed with the subsequent generations. So the character of Pierre I talked about before, that she encountered a struggle because she can't live in two cultures. She married to a white guy, but in her whole family, they're all Chinese. So she struggles to find a balance between two different cultures. And also it is also so difficult for other characters in this novel to live both American and Chinese ways. And Beer tries so hard to avoid her China heritage to adopt the American lifestyle. But one person's deity cannot change so easily, because deep in her body or in her heart, she is Chinese. So all her efforts have failed. She feels alienated from her mother and other family members, and she hated so much about Chinese culture, and she felt embarrassed to say that she is from China. This is like a serious issue going on in the past and right now too. Like so many American-born Chinese afraid to say that they're from China, and also like they think like Chinese, the language basically sounds not good. And also this book is really similar to the Joy Luck Club, and the fish cheek I remember. So I think this creates a parallel, maybe, how like both characters, they cannot accept their own culture. Although like she struggles to balance the demands of two cultures with little efforts to succeed, Pierre still, like later on, Helen closed the gap between Winnie and Pierre, so they shared their secrets, and Pierre gradually to accept her own deity, which is the Chinese cultural background. Last but not least, I want to talk about another theme. So like people can use this these two seem to write their essays, right? So I want to talk about the duty of woman in Eastern society. So women in this book, women they don't have any power, or being a woman, they are they need to take care of the whole family, and they have to be submissive submissive, and they have to have child and doing the entire house jobs. So Winnie is scared of Wenfu, but she still has to be submissive. So right here it shows woman's innocence and their need for a good husband to take care of. So later on, Pierre knows that Jamie actually is not her own father, which is sad. When women are not educated, they were expected to submit to their husbands. Even though Winnie is kind of educated and born from a wealth family, she still needs to listen to Wenfu because Wenfu is stronger than Winnie, so Wenfu can do whatever he wants, like raping her, so they have a child appear. And Winnie tries so hard to protect her children, but in this book, Wenfu does not even care about their children, or Winnie. So Wenfu cares nothing. So woman is a huge figure that Winnie does everything to protect everyone in the book. Later on, Winnie regrets if they have had a chance to say no to all these sufferings created by Wenfu. And woman only thought the principles of being a good wife to take good care of husband and child and children. So we know that women should not be that submissive. They should. So people can learn that they should say no to the hands of arrogant men. I think this book is really good when you talk about woman's responsibilities and men's responsibilities, and you can compare Winnie with Jimmy and Wenfu to show a foil to do the analysis when you see the problem like related to Winnie's responsibilities, women's related to women's responsibilities, and also the different cultural backgrounds. Before we read the Joy Luck Club, but so we can talk about the Kitchen Girls Wife 2 when you see the problem about the different cultural backgrounds, and also the woman's identities, like what exactly women should be or should do in their life. So it's a good book to argue about. You can be like argue either side, like either women should be like submissive to their husband and take good care of their family and husband and children, or women can do what they want. Women can be powerful than men. Like either way is fine. So I think these are what people should know. I think all these are only the necessary information that the student will need to review in preparation for AP exam.